Hey everyone, welcome to Fantasy Book Reviews. My name's Nick.
And I'm Ray, and today we're going to be talking about Book 3 of The Wheel of Time, The Dragon Reborn. I wonder what they mean.
This is going to be a spoiler-free review. We're going to be rating the book's plot and story, character development, world building, and great moments on a scale of 0 to 10. At the end, we'll give you our recommendation on whether we think you should read the book or not. So let's get into it.
Let's
Uh,
do it.
so our first category, plot and story. This was kind of a weak point to me. I only because obviously I like what they're doing, but I would have liked a little bit of a twist in there somewhere. But almost from the very beginning, the story is fairly linear, even though I love, and we'll get into it. I love a lot of the stuff that happens. But for me, my score on the plot and story is going to be an 8. And not even necessarily the plot, mostly the story, right? From beginning to end, what the overall story is about. It's gonna be an 8 for me, dog.
So I mean, I could tell you right now, the overall arcing plot, I love it. I love the overall plot. However,
Mm-hmm.
it's missing a very important ingredient to me, one of my favorite ingredients of the book, and for that, I would put it at like a 7.5. Plot is like a
Okay.
straight up a 9. Story though,
Yeah.
because it's missing that element that I love so much,
Mm-hmm.
7.5. So.
And maybe I want to take just a second to kind of clarify what I mean by a twist almost. Um, for example, in book one, at the beginning of the story, the goal is to get to Tarval and to figure out what's going on. And then through the course of the story, that changes. And there just wasn't that sort of change in this book. There wasn't a beginning goal, and then somewhere along the lines, things changed because of outside
Yeah,
you know
mine was just an absence of a point of view for most of the book.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
I
that's
totally
really the
understand
only
that.
reason.
Yeah, I totally got that. All right. So next category, character development. And this one is a pretty high one for me. I loved the character development in this book. I thought it's fantastic. I gave it a 9.5. I think I could have given the character development. You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna give the character development a 10 in this book. I take it back. Take back my 9.5. I'm giving it a 10. Um,
That's a 10.
Yeah, the only reason I was going to give it a 9.5 is because I didn't care for some of the development that went on with specifically Egwin and Nynaeve. But you know what? I'm going to look past it and I'm just going to go for a 10 because other people got the love that they needed, and it was great.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the character development in this book, aside from the absenced character, um,
Hmm.
is really good, and we'll talk more about it in our long form. So stick around for that. But
Yeah.
great development, especially with the major characters who just haven't had much yet so far.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would give it I'd probably give it a 9.
So with our category 3, right, we're gonna go into world building. I love this world. This is I'm gonna give it a 9.5. I think it's great. Get to see so many new cities. There's so much stuff going on. A few of the nations that were coming in get built up so much more, and I loved it.
And this is where I would disagree with you.
Okay.
Personally, world building I think is a 9.75. I'd give it the 10, but that's going to go to
Oh,
another
okay.
book
You
in the
disagree.
future.
You disagree. I gave it a 9.5 and you
Yeah,
disagree with the
I
point 0.7.
I
Got
want
it.
I
Got
want it
it.
I want to give this one a 10. I want to,
Uh-huh.
but with books in the series, other books, I mean, I can't give
Got it.
this the
It's okay.
10. Seeing the new cities is
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal, and then and not even that, but just the small towns that like Parent and shit visits. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of great real world building there from like small things and
Yeah.
a little ramble here. It was like the first time I played Oblivion, going over a mountain and seeing a random fucking village, and you just show up in it, and there's like stuff to do there.
Yeah.
That's what this book feels like. It
Yeah.
feels great.
Number 4, great slash awesome moments. What do you think about the moments in this book?
I'll just say, I mean, my favorite moment in the book obviously is going to be the final sequence. I'll just say that the final sequence I thought was
Yeah.
it was paramount to the story as a whole. It really concludes the first arc of the overarching story.
Yeah.
It's like the first arc that's actually finished, and it feels good to have that conclusion
It
there.
yes.
And I would give the great moments in this book a 10.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a bad book at some point so that we can say that we give things low scores.
Yeah,
Because
you
all of
guys
our
will see
reviews
it.
so far have just been fantastic scores. So
Yeah.
for my great moments on this one, I'm gonna give it a 9.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
like you said, we both had issues with the last book for the ending.
Mm-hmm.
This book was so much better, and we'll get into it some more in the deep dive. But aside from the ending, there were so many
Yeah.
just cool things that happen in this book that I love, and I think about even whenever I'm reading book 14. I'm like, oh man, that was awesome when this character did that in
Yeah.
back in book 3.
And it's super cool because like the future books reference a lot of the stuff from this
Yeah.
book and like all the books in general. So like it is
Mm-hmm.
cool that the story actually does do that. This one feels incredibly unique and incredibly potent,
Yeah.
right? Because of what it's doing.
Yeah.
And with that, for those who think we are rating this series too highly or we're not critical enough, don't worry. It'll come after about probably 3 more books. This book would be one of my favorites in the series, probably a top 2, honestly,
Yeah.
if it had more perspective from one major character. But because of the absence of that, I'm a ride or die kind of guy, right? You
Okay.
give me a character, you give me the main character, I'm like, whoa, that's my boy or that's my
All
girl,
right.
right? And
Yeah.
with the absence of that, it's just that ingredient was missing for me, just as who I am. So
Yeah.
like
I understand.
that's why it's
Um,
not higher up than I would rank it.
Got it. All right, let's move into our overall score. Just for reference, this is not an average. We're just gonna kind of give it our overall thoughts. Even if we gave every single category a 10, we could still rate it a 9 overall,
A
just
2.
because we were a jerk, But
Yeah.
yeah, so overall for me, I'm gonna give it a 9.5, even with my change in character development. I'm giving it a 9.5. I think it's a fantastic book. This, I said it for the Great Hunt, but once reading this, I'm like, ooh, this book made the Great Hunt move down a little bit in my list because this one's just, I forgot how much I love it.
Yeah.
So this one is above the Great Hunt for me. Maybe knocked Great Hunt off of my top 5.
Overall, I would give this probably a 9 to 9.25. Overall, great book.
Yeah. So recommendation: would you recommend this book? And I think
After
at this
reading books
point,
1 and 2.
yes, I was just about to say at this point, not as a solo book, would you recommend reading this book to continue the series?
I think this is the pivotal book. Specifically, if you try out the series, I think you should read books 1 through 3. If you do not like the books by the end of this book, then the series isn't for you. Although I don't
Yep.
see how you would not like the series after this book, especially
Yeah.
with what's in its future. So I think this is really the pivotal moment to give yourself a chance for the 14 books. Just give it the
True.
3, and it gives you a sense of the scope, the change, the change of pace that will come in the future as well.
Yeah.
It gives a good example of what Robert Jordan's writing can evolve into, and it will
Yeah.
evolve into it.
If you enjoyed this sort of content in this video, our next review is going to be book 4 of the Wheel of Time, The Shadow Rising. So stay tuned for our long form deep dive on this one. So once you read the book, come check it out.
And if you want to get ahead of us, go ahead and read it. I promise you, book 4 will not be a waste of your time.
Thanks for watching.
All right. And with that, Ray out.